Today, we're diving into something really fascinating from one of the market's best-known investors, Cathie Wood of ARK Invest. She just said something about Tesla that, when you first hear it, sounds like a total contradiction. And this is it. This is the quote we're going to unpack. Too conservative and Cathie Wood are two things you just don't hear in the same sentence, right? Especially when you're talking about Tesla. So this is a pretty wild admission from arguably the biggest Tesla bull on Wall Street. And that really gets to the heart of the mystery here. Why would someone who's famous for these huge predictions suddenly say she might be aiming too low? Well, the answer tells you everything about her long-term thinking and what she sees as this massive, massive opportunity that nobody is pricing in. All right, so to really get why this statement is such a big deal, we have to start with the baseline. We have to look at Cathie Wood's already famous and, let's be honest, very aggressive price target for Tesla. Here it is, $2,600. That's ARK Invest's price target for Tesla stock by 2029. And just to put that into perspective, that's roughly a 6 times increase from where the stock has been lately. I mean, it's an incredibly bullish call by any standard you can think of. But the real story isn't the number itself, it's what's inside that number. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how they build that price target. You can see it's almost entirely based on the potential of the autonomous ride-hailing business, robotaxis. And then look at that note right there. Absolutely nothing is priced in for the Optimus humanoid robot. Zero. Zilch. Nada. So the whole foundation of her thesis is built on this belief that autonomous driving isn't just some niche market. She thinks it's going to become a massive $10 trillion global market in the next decade. I mean, that's a gigantic slice of the entire world economy. So why is she so sure that Tesla's the one to capture that market? Well, it all comes down to this, the data moat. With millions and millions of cars already out there on the road, Tesla is just vacuuming up an ocean of real-world driving data every single day. No other competitor is even in the same universe when it comes to this scale, and that data is the absolute key ingredient for training its AI. Okay, so we know her price target is all in on robotaxis. Now let's dig into why she's so confident. And to do that, you have to understand how she's reading the mood of investors right now. Her argument is that all the skepticism and fear around AI right now is actually a good thing. Far from being a sign of some kind of bubble, she sees this wall of worry as the classic sign of a healthy, really sustainable bull market. It's when everyone is cautious, that's when the real, long-lasting gains are actually made. And this slide just illustrates her point perfectly. Think about the dot-com bubble. Back then, there was just total euphoria, right? But the actual infrastructure, like all that dark fiber optic cable, was built way ahead of any real demand. Today, she's saying it's the complete opposite. The feeling out there is worry, but the infrastructure, things like GPUs, is being used to its absolute maximum, which proves the demand is very, very real. So understanding this market psychology is totally key to decoding her original statement. That's the real signal we're trying to figure out here. And here's the point we have to hammer home. The entire bullish case that we just walked through, the huge price target, the market analysis, the data advantage, all of it completely, 100%, excludes the opportunity in humanoid robots. And here's the quote again, but now it has all this context. She's openly admitting two things. First, yeah, maybe they were a little early on the timeline for robotaxis. But second, and this is the big one, she believes they're at the same time massively underestimating the potential of the Optimus robot. This is the core takeaway. This is her saying the quiet part out loud. The person with the single highest price target for Tesla on the street is telling you that the thing she might be most wrong about, in a good way, isn't even in her model. She's signaling that there's this enormous, unpriced upside that the rest of the market just isn't even thinking about yet. So what does the signal really mean for how we should think about Tesla's long-term value? What happens when you throw this wild card, Optimus, into the mix? Well, this is the logical conclusion, isn't it? Her statement completely reframes the entire investment case. If you think the Optimus robot project has any significant value, then her already sky-high $2,600 price target suddenly stops looking like a ceiling, and it starts looking a lot more like a new floor. So let's just quickly recap the key signals from her whole analysis. First, that big price target is almost entirely a bet on robotaxis. Second, the biggest Tesla bull out there is admitting she might not be bullish enough on the Optimus robot. Third, she believes we are getting close to that tipping point where tech adoption goes from kind of slow to all at once. And finally, that this AI race between the US and China is actually a good thing. It's just speeding up innovation for everyone. And all of this brings us to one final thought, really about how to think about risk and timing, especially when you're talking about technologies that could just fundamentally change everything. Critics love to point at ARC's timelines, saying they've been too early on things like robotaxis. But her point is that when you're dealing with truly disruptive innovation, being directionally correct is what matters in the long run. There is a huge difference between getting the timing a little bit off and getting the entire thesis dead wrong. And that leaves us with this final question to think about. In a world where technology can move from slowly to all at once, which is actually the greater risk? Being a few years too early on a great idea or being left behind completely? That's really the paradox at the very heart of Cathie Wood's entire bullish thesis.